r/ask Reddit. What's the weirdest thing you've done as a result of social anxiety? Talking to my boss after a long day of exams and assignments. I go to leave and she catches the door before I can leave to say goodbye. For some reason my wired brain made me give her Finn Jurgens and say Zoop as I walked away. Thought about it the whole way home. For some reason this one made me laugh the hardest. Ducking Zoop. 1 year of high school I didn't have anyone in my lunch period that I was friends with. So instead of making friends with the other kids there, I'd eat really fast and say I had to go study in the library, and would instead just wander around the halls until lunch was over. Except you weren't allowed to roam the halls like that. So I had to sneak around to avoid any teachers or hall monitors seeing me. I spent a lot of that time going from bathroom to bathroom, kind of just standing there waiting for time to pass. People keep asking these questions, so here are the answers. I didn't actually go in the library because I didn't want to spend my free time studying. I wasn't a huge fan of school in the first place. Sneaking around was honestly more appealing to me. We didn't have lunch together because there were too many students to have them all in the cafeteria at once. So lunch was broken up into 4 mini periods. Some kids ate lunch while the others were still in class and rotated in and out of the cafeteria. That's why we weren't allowed to roam the halls. Thanks for the concern, but I wasn't a super sad kid back then or anything. And I'm totally fine now. No, I'm not you. A teacher noticed that I didn't have any friends in lunch, and so she had me sort the teacher's mail in the office every day instead of going to lunch. Mixed up thank you very much and thank you mom, and said thank you mom to a bank teller. I was going to leave my room to make dinner, but then I heard my roommates and their friends talking outside. I didn't want to talk to them, so I waited until they left and just bought takeout instead. I always listen for people before I leave my room. Sometimes I just don't wanna have to talk to anybody. I was at a Chipotle. The girl asked me how my day had been. I said large please because I got confused and thought she was asking what size I wanted. Then she asked if I wanted white rice or the other rice they had, and I said yes. They don't even have sizes. This is amazing on so many levels. I get self-conscious of the speed of my window wipers. I'm always comparing to other cars so I don't look like I'm overdoing it. Hey everybody look, this guy's windshield wipers are going too fast. He's got him up on medium high, when we all know this level of rain requires them to be on low to low medium at best. It was raining harder a second ago, I swear. I'm actually sitting here, in disbelief that other people do this. I don't care what speed other people's wipers are going. Why do I think people are looking at mine? Literally spend every rainy day convincing myself how ridiculous I'm being. But it's no use, it's completely subconscious. I'm from Ireland, a Catholic enough country. I deliver pizzas, and one night a woman said God be with you as I was walking away, and I stumbled over my words and said peace be upon you like the fecking pizza poop. Cringed pretty hard walking away as she just looked at me. Edit. Toppings be upon you my children. Pizza upon you. Bartender asked me what my name was. I forgot and had to think about it. I was taking an oral Korean exam and my professor asked my name. I just stared at her with a look of horror because at that moment I forgot my name. She asked again in English and it took about a minute of silence for me to remember my name. Got a 95 at least. We threw out his name. Asked a customer if her name was Kate, spelled with a Kate. My name is BN. I spell it Ben. Skipped out on a really good job interview because they wanted me to do a presentation in front of a few people as part of the interview. Found out I had to do one of these and stopped at a music store to buy a harmonica. Never played a harmonica in my life. My technique was so bad on top of having nervous, shaky breath that I ended up playing mostly high-pitched or flat notes that had absolutely no flow. After I was done, they looked at me expectantly and I was just like hey that's it. And they gave me the saddest round of pity applause ever. I still think about this moment while laying awake at night and cringe. Got the job though AI. This happens to me with group interviews. I have no problem talking one-on-one with somebody, but I struggle when it's a large group. I have gotten out of my car, walked up to the house of the party, then walked back to my car, then walked back up to the house, Then back to my car until I finally texted my friend at the party, asking him to come get me outside so I wouldn't have to walk in front of the crowd alone. My solution is to arrive at the party before anyone else does and get hammered. That way my social anxiety is far gone before anyone shows up. The other day at my small office I went to the bathroom to fix my shirt which I had worn inside out. When I went into the stall the bathroom was empty. As I flipped my shirt around someone walked into the stall next to me. I also used some toilet paper to wipe my nose, slight cold, and dropped the paper in the bowl. This triggered the auto flush sensor and it flushed. My predicament began when I realized I also had to pee. But since I had already used TP and flushed, my twisted mind decided this would seem really weird to the person next door. Why would someone use the bathroom, flush, and then stand up and pee again? Said no one ever. But I couldn't. They might recognize my shoes and know who I was. So instead I hatched a clever deception. I left the stall and washed my hands to seem normal. Despite that I hadn't even used the bathroom. After drying I walked loudly to the exit and opened the door into the hall. Then I said oh excuse me like I had accidentally bumped into someone else coming in. And walked right back in. I made sure to change the sound of my footsteps walking more quietly so that stall man would think I was a different person and not some freak playing bathroom charades. Then I went to the urinal and peed and then washed my hands again, using the farthest sink so he couldn't spot my shoes. The oh, excuse me tactic is the smartest move I've ever heard of. Why have I not thought of this? Whoa. Driving to a party, sat outside of it in my car the entire time, left, next day, said I was there. I mean you were. I once hid under a pile of blankets to avoid talking to someone I knew was coming up to my boyfriend's apartment for a few minutes. I used to pretend I wasn't home when my now ex's mom came around. She was a train wreck of a person, always high, always needy, always complaining, and she would walk around the entire house and look through the windows and bang on them. I would hide in a closet or under a pile of blankets while holding very still, anything to avoid dealing with her one-on-one. Her drug habits wouldn't have bothered me as much if she didn't spend all her money on drugs and then whine about not being able to buy groceries or pay her bills. I could probably be married by now if I would quit looking away every time I spy a woman trying to make eye contact with me. It always an instant reaction that I immediately regret. I hide when I have to make important phone calls at work. I hate phoning people, yet went and got a job that required it, which is ridiculous. I'll hide my caller ID and go take a walk to calm myself down, then use my mobile to call clients away from the office so nobody is listening. Oh god, I hate the ducking phone. No matter what I end up talking over the other person, and when I have to make cold calls for information or whatever I always feel like I'm bothering whoever is on the other end. I also hate making what I consider non-standard calls and their extreme awkwardness that results. For instance, having to call a Subway restaurant and asking if I can get a hold of security cam footage from the 15th of October. Walked into a bar that was packed full of people who had all come home for Christmas to my small town. I knew everybody there. I walked in, walked through the crowd, right past my sister, and out the back door. When my sister and I saw each other, she looked at me, like, oh duck, you're freaking out I bet. She knows all about my social anxiety. She knew exactly what I had just done, and she thought it was hilarious. Back in middle school I literally ran away when someone was going to ask me to the school dance. In my defense, I really had to pee. I still feel bad about it though. No one asked me to the school dance. I once hid from my family when they came over for the holidays out of fear of interaction. I hid especially from one of my cousins who was socially aggressive and just made me really anxious. I had nowhere else to hide where there wasn't people. So I went into my bathroom and hid under the sink. I was about 8 and just planned to stay there as long as possible. My cousin, the aggressive one, came in, took a long and winded shit and then left. I just stayed there and am to this day even more terrified of interacting with him. I saw nothing but I heard every sound. I'm just imagining you having a Vietnam flashback, but instead of soldiers screaming, it's the echoed sounds of a violent shit. After work, I decide to get a beer at a bar. I teach night classes on a side of town I'm not used to, so I go into random sports bar and I sit alone. I do not watch most sports. Later, me, in my mind, it's getting late. I should go home. Random guy, hey, this Texans game is good. Can't believe something football-y happened. Me, pretending to know football stuff. Yep, these dudes are dope. The Texans are in for some trouble if they mess up. Guy, finally, someone on my side. The guy buys me beer. We are now best friends. Turns out we are the only fans of whatever the other team is in this bar. We bond over our outsider status. I have no idea what to say, and as the night goes on, he keeps buying beer. I have pretended to like football for too long to come clean now. I end up watching the whole game. Our team lost. I didn't get home until midnight. When I was about 11, I stood in a room with my mom and her employees after an office Thanksgiving luncheon. They were chatting away about various things and we were all snacking. I took a bite of turkey and as I went to swallow it, it lodged in my throat. I kept swallowing as hard as I could, but it wouldn't budge and I couldn't breathe. I didn't have a drink near me either. So, I stood there attempting to get it down while giving no indication that I was literally choking on my food, because I didn't want to interrupt the conversation or draw attention to myself. My vision was starting to black on the edges and I was full on panicking inside when I finally got it swallowed down. I remember breathing heavy through my nose and my eyes watering, thinking how stupid I just was, but now I definitely couldn't say anything about it. Sometimes it feels like anxiety will kill you. Sometimes it almost does. My girlfriend was a server at a restaurant called Bonefish and she was supposed to ask, have you ever dined at Bonefish? But instead she asked, have you ever boned a dinner fish? She was mortified, but her customers thought it was hilarious. I've been to Bonefish with my buddy. At one point the waitress comes up and says, hey guys, how are you? How's everything? And my friend said, we're delicious, very loudly. We got a new waitress. If I am exceptionally nervous about a social interaction or gathering I have agreed to attend, I will purposefully get hammered, let my phone die, travel to places just outside realistic return distances, and otherwise create a laundry list of realistic sounding excuses why I couldn't make it. I feel myself doing it too, but the anxiety wins more than I do. Pathetic, comma. You know you can just lie, right? Lying gives me more anxiety. I just love how we, humans, are the pinnacle of evolution on Earth, and we routinely get taken down by our own brains. I had to pick something up from someone's house and was desperate for the loo. Didn't want to ask to use a bathroom in their house, so instead picked what I needed up. Rudely rushed through small talk. Basically ran to my car. Drove far enough away they couldn't see me and then parked again and half pissed myself running into a bush. Wasn't even the first time I'd been to that house. I once stalked a guy's social media accounts until I found the school his daughter went to so I could find a buzzbook address book of that school that said his email address rather than taking 15 seconds to give him a call on a number he gave me. This one time I was approached by a high school girl trying to get my contact info. I'm only 22, so I guess I'm passable for just an older guy, but clearly you gotta say no. So me, being a Reddit user, said something stupid. I started to say sorry but I'm old enough to be your dad, but that was so dumb I changed it mid-sentence to sorry I'm old enough to be your brother, but that didn't make any sense, so what really came out of my mouth was sorry I'm old enough to be your brother's college roommate, and then we both stood there in that amazing WTF feeling you get when you're just overloaded with WTF. I once got off the wrong bus stop on purpose because I didn't want to tell the bus to stop, so I just waited for it to stop itself. One time when I was a kid, I was calling up a girl I liked to ask her if she wanted to hang out. Her mom answered the phone and in my awkward teenage bumbling I asked her mom if she wanted to hang out. I'm still not quite over that one, nearly 10 years later. I have drove to university. I was 5 minutes late. Stood outside the room. Couldn't walk in. Drove home, waste of petrol. Was at a picnic with some friends, 10-15 people. Turned into like 50-75 people within an hour. Enter extreme anxiety. Went up to grill to get hot dog. Cute girl walks behind me to get one. Notice and start sweating. Barbecue homie hands me my hot dog. So nervous I drop it right onto the cement. Didn't know to get another one, so picked it up with dirt all over it. Took a bite and walked away. Added bonus, a bush I'm really allergic to was nearby, so the next week I had an allergic reaction all over my body from it. Good times with my pal social anxiety. My roommates and I hosted a party. I wasn't having a good night and went into my room to find two people I didn't know making out on my bed. I said, "Please leave when you're done," and went to my friend's room instead to curl up and freak out. I was in a dance class a few years ago and we had to do improv. Everyone there was a way better dancer than me, so I had a difficult time just with that. Well, my teacher gave us 5 minutes to come up with a dance to a whole song, and you'd have to dance in front of the class alone. I knocked the duck out of there and ran and hid in the bathroom. My cell phone was still in the classroom, but at that point I didn't care. I decided to sneak out the front door of the studio. Well, there's a small problem there. The walkway to the parking lot was in front of the giant windows of my classroom. I decided to just duck down and run the best I could, hoping no one saw me. I made it to the car and had my dad run in and get my phone. Didn't go back to my class for a few weeks there. In middle school, I'd give lunch money to a friend and ask her to bring my tray to me so I didn't have to walk through the lunchroom. I'd also ask people to take my tray back for me once finished eating. Even worse than that, in 3rd grade I got super nervous when people would see me eat. I also had a fear of choking, so I'd only eat ketchup packets. I always loved ketchup and I guess it was a way to get some sort of salty flavor that reminded me of food without actually eating anything solid. People would give me their ketchup packets and I'd eat like 10 or more at lunchtime and that was it. If we had something good, I'd sneak it in my pocket, and once back inside the classroom, I'd sneak it into my backpack and eat it at home that day. For some reason, my fear of choking was much smaller at home. I was an odd kid. Thankfully my social anxiety is a pretty small factor in my life now. Although anything is small compared to that, I guess, lol. When I was in 2nd or 3rd grade I was literally choking. Couldn't breathe. In the cafeteria. I was so embarrassed I pretended not to be choking. Eventually, felt like forever. I'm sure it wasn't. A teacher came up talking to me about something unrelated. Quickly realized I was choking when I didn't respond, and gave me some odd Heimlich. I think my social anxiety over my friends knowing I was choking almost killed me, lol. If someone ever comes to my door when I'm home alone, I'll army crawl around my house, avoiding all the windows until I get to the stairway and I can listen until they leave. I still do this as a 20-year-old woman. Ooh boy, I was at the mall, not intending to spend much money at all. I was by myself and I tried to avoid all of those annoying mall salesmen that desperately try to bring you over to their booths. Well, I looked at one of them and ended up spending over $100 on a nail kit because I was too anxious to say no. My friends think I'm an idiot. Honestly, I couldn't agree more. Living with roommates at the time, I was in my bedroom and had to pee really bad, but they were having a bit of a party. I decided to stay hidden in my bedroom and pee in an empty water bottle so I didn't have to interact with people on my way to the washroom. I was buying a Zelda themed wallet at Infi once. The cashier asked me if I wanted a bag for it. I just stammered and said no thanks. I'll just equip it now. No thanks. I'll just equip it now. Too long didn't read. I faked an angry phone call because I was too afraid to just get out of line. I was picking up my little sister from school, and I didn't have anything better to do and I didn't want her to have to wait on the long car line. So I got there 40 minutes early, about 5 minutes before school let out. She told me she was going home with a friend. I was so scared that the people behind me in line would think I was creepy if I just left the line after all that time. So I pretended to be on the phone, got out of my car and rummaged through my trunk while acting like I was angry at the person on the other end of the call, complete with annoyed arm movements and all, then got back in and drove off. Climbed a tree to get away from people at an outdoor party, stayed there until everyone left and then went home. When entering a public restroom, If there already happens to be somebody in there, I'll wash my hands uselessly until they leave. If somebody else walks in before or just as they leave, I generally decide I don't really need to be there and live that stomach busting hell until I can find another restroom to start the process all over again. Whoa, you made it to the end? You're a ducking beast. I'll cut you a deal. Smash like and subscribe for more curated content, bruh. It's free and that's a great price.